to another episode of Pimp Your Brilliance with Monique Malcolm, a podcast about brilliant people leveraging their passions to create their own opportunities. I aim to show you what's really possible when you shut down the chorus of fear and lean into your genius zone. You can learn more about this show and subscribe for updates by visiting keepchasingthestars.com/podcast or come hang out with me on Instagram at StarChasersOnly. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey Star Chasers, welcome to Minisode number 7. If you want more information about this episode or show notes, you can find them at keepchasingthestars.com/M7. First things first, I wanted to let you guys know that I'm adding a bi-monthly book club to the podcast. I'll be announcing a new book about business or personal development every other month. This month, we'll be reading You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. This book has been raved about by myself as well as several of my guests, so it's the perfect kick in the pants to get your money mindset right. So make sure you read it and join my Facebook group before August 30th so that we can discuss it then. You can get all the details about the book club by visiting keepchasingthestars.com/book club. Today, I want to talk about how to silence the chorus of fear. When I started putting together the notes for this episode, I wanted to call this episode How to Silence the Chorus of Fear Once and For All. But the truth is, you're always going to have fear pop up when you're chasing your goals and trying to live your best life. It's just a part of the process. Fear is natural. Your mind, it's a brilliant piece of machinery, but it wants to protect itself at all costs. So fear by design is a defense mechanism. It's supposed to protect you. The problem is that more often than not, fear holds us back. It destroys dreams, it kills productivity, and it just sucks the fun out of life. Today, I want to give you 3 strategies for silencing my frenemies, the chorus of fear. And I call it the chorus of fear because it's those like nagging voices that pop up in the back of your mind when you start thinking about taking some big chances, maybe taking a risk, and you're excited. But then you start hearing those voices in the back of your mind. That's how the chorus of fear works. So those ideas come into your mind and they're working their way into a full-on production, honestly. I don't want you to feel bogged down by the chorus of fear because the chorus of fear is really masterful at singing just the right things to derail our plans. And I'm sure that you probably recognize some of the chorus of fear's greatest hits. Things like, it didn't work out for you before. What makes you think you can do that? Everyone is already doing that, so why even try? And my personal favorite, and this is the one that really I have to fight really, really hard to make sure I don't let the chorus of fear derail me when it starts to sing, nobody's going to buy that from you. So I get it. I'm right here in the trenches with you trying to fight the fear and just keep going. Because the list of excuses and greatest hits that the chorus of fear has in its arsenal to sing, they're endless. So here are my 3 strategies for how to silence the chorus of fear. Strategy number 1, identify the root cause of your fear. What I like to do with this is grab a notebook and do some stream of consciousness writing. And I try to get to what am I really afraid of? Like, what am I risking? What is it? What painful thing am I trying to protect myself from? What painful thing is my mind trying to protect me from? So here are a couple of things that you can ask yourself as you're writing. What am I really afraid of? Where do these feelings stem from? Am I holding on to feelings associated with past failures? That's an important one because once we've had a past failure, if we have framed that failure as like a loss, we don't feel like we learned from it. We feel the pain. We want to avoid that for the future. So that's an important one to ask yourself. Am I comparing myself to people on the internet? This is another biggie. I have found myself in that comparison, jealousy, fear spiral. And a lot of times that stems from seeing, somebody else's success or what we think is somebody else's success, and then trying to compare ourselves to that. So feeling like we can't sell this thing or we can't launch this thing because somebody else did it and they had amazing numbers, so we think. But we think that we won't be able to match that. And then the last question Are my expectations realistic based on my abilities? So when you're doing stream of consciousness to identify your root cause of your fear, you're just writing as honestly and as openly as possible. Chances are some things are going to float up to the surface, and that's what we're looking for. Those little nuggets of why we are procrastinating or why we're putting this thing off, why we're not taking action. Once you have answers and you can acknowledge them, then you can move on to my next step, which is make fear a liar. Fear is great at playing up excuses and distorting the truth. Write down why every excuse that fear is thrown in your face, why it's false. So if you had answers that came up in your stream of consciousness writing practice, write those answers down, the root causes, and then make fear be a liar. So here's an example. So say you want to launch a product, but you're feeling like nobody's going to buy it. All right, write that down. Your fear is, I'm going to put myself out there and nobody's going to buy this thing. But then I want you to go back and in the next column or right next to it, write about a time that you sold something before. And it doesn't have to be this exact same product, but have you sold things in the past? Have they sold well? What other experience did you have doing something similar that worked out for you? Another example is your goal. So if you have a specific goal, but you're feeling very scared that you're not going to achieve that goal and you are feeling like apprehensive and you again are trying to avoid that pain, write down a list of goals that you actually set and that you achieved. Doesn't matter how big or small they are. The thing is, you want to use this exercise to crush the lies and the excuses that the chorus of fear is throwing at you. So silence them by telling them, I've done this before and it worked. Or silence them by just flat out saying, you are lying. Like this, you're distorting the truth. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. My final strategy is getting macro with your next steps. This is a time when you need to zoom in. Really zoom in on what you're working on and focus on just the next small step. And I'm going to use the example of a camera. So I don't know if you have ever really paid attention to the settings on your camera, but most cameras, even point and shoot cameras, come with a macro setting. The macro setting on your camera is for you to take pictures of really small things. So maybe flowers or close-ups of bugs or insects, things that are kind of tiny that you need to get really, really close to get good detail. Well, if you use the macro setting on your camera, you'll notice that things that are not the focal point of the picture or the focal point of the lens, they get blurred out. So if you're taking a picture of a really beautiful little flower, everything in the background outside of the focal point of that flower is blurred out. So that's what I mean by zooming in and getting macro with your next step. Not worrying about the overall plan or big picture. Your goal is just to hype yourself up enough to take the next small step. And it can be crazy small. Things like looking up the email address of a podcast that you want to pitch, or typing up an email that you need to send to your list. Whatever it is, just the next small step. You're not worrying about all of the things that are coming after that, just that one next step. So if you're feeling scared, I want you to try those 3 strategies and see how they work. But more than anything, I just want to encourage you to keep going, keep pushing, because action silences the chorus of fear. And even though you may be feeling scared, sometimes we just have to feel the fear and do it anyway. Before you go, I have a favor to ask. I would love if you would take a minute to fill out my listener survey to help me get a better understanding of what you need and what you would like to see from the show. If you take the survey, you could win a Visionary Journal prize pack, which includes a copy of my Visionary Journal, plus my favorite planner supplies, and pens, because I love a good pen. All you have to do is visit keepchasingthestars.com/survey, fill out the survey, and I will announce a winner before the book club episode on August 30th. Hurry up and go fill out the survey because you have just a limited amount of time. And that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Learn more about this show and get access to show notes by visiting keepchasingthestars.com. While you're there, make sure you subscribe for updates. I'll be back next week, and in the meantime, go out there and pimp your brilliance.